Hey guys, welcome back to The Readers. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is pro-revenge story. For background, I am from Russia, living in the second largest city in our country, and currently a second-year university student. This information will be useful later. The story begins when I was in my final year of school. We don't have high school or middle school here, just 11 years of education before university. This was in early 2024, about 2 months before my university entrance exams. I was searching for a job because I wanted my own apartment. I had been living with my grandparents and didn't want to burden them anymore. After searching for a while, I found a decent-paying part-time job. Since I was only 17, I couldn't work full-time. It was at a call center, and honestly, it was a terrible job. Here's where we meet the main character of our story. Let's call her Nina. She absolutely hated me. She was my top manager while I was just a regular manager taking calls and reaching out to people about our completely free product. Nina supervised 10 employees in her group. For the first month and a half, things were okay. Nina even gave me her work phone because supposedly there weren't enough phones for everyone in her group. One day, my boss called me into his office. "Listen," he said sternly, "if you don't get any new clients by the end of this month, you're fired." "But sir," I replied, "I already have 11 clients this month. I thought that was good for a beginner." He shook his head. "That was last month. I don't want to hear excuses. Handle this like a professional." Something felt off. That's when it hit me. Nina must have done something. I needed proof, so I asked my friend to help with a plan. "Hey, can you pretend to be a customer?" I asked my friend. "I need to figure something out." "Sure. What do you need me to do?" he responded. The plan was simple. I would call my friend while he pretended to be a customer, and I would record everything. What I discovered made my blood boil. There were plenty of phones available. What I didn't know was that each phone had an employee ID linked to it. Every call I made and every client I secured was being credited to Nina's account. The only reason I hadn't been fired was that she occasionally made calls using my ID to keep up appearances. My revenge plan was straightforward. 5 friends would pose as clients and provide evidence of our conversations from Nina's phone. Every time Nina used my phone in my presence, I made sure to leave the area quickly. We had cameras everywhere, so I could prove she was impersonating me and stealing my clients. When everything was ready, I presented 2 security camera recordings and 15 pages of client call transcripts to our boss. When Nina was called into the boss's office, her face turned so red you'd think she was about to explode. "This is unacceptable," the boss said to her. "Pack your things." "You don't understand," Nina protested. "I can explain." "I'm not interested in excuses." He cut her off, using the same words he'd used with me. Before leaving, she hissed at me, "I'll get you back for this. Just wait." I stayed at the call center for 2 more months before finding a better full-time job after turning 18. I started university in fall 2024, and despite my grandmother being a professor there, I worked hard to prove myself. One day, I walked into my grandmother's office. She's quite important at the university. And who did I see working as her assistant? Nina. Her face lit up with vindictive pleasure when she saw me, clearly thinking she'd found her revenge. But her expression quickly changed when I walked over and kissed my grandmother's cheek. "Hi, Grandma," I said loudly. "Oh, I see you've met Nina." The next day, Nina was fired again. No elaborate plan needed this time. I just told my grandmother about our history at the call center. To this day, I don't feel guilty about it. The next one is an entitled people story. I've been a nail technician for over 15 years. I started working at other people's salons before finally saving enough to open my own place 3 years ago. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine, a small storefront in a strip mall with 5 stations, pleasant lighting, and a little waiting area with magazines and a coffee machine. I named it Perfect 10 Nails and built up a decent clientele through word of mouth and social media. The trouble started when Supreme Nails opened up just 2 blocks away. The owner, let's call her Karen, had worked at a high-end salon downtown before deciding to branch out on her own. From day one, there was tension. The first time she came into my salon, she wasn't there as a customer. "Just checking out the competition," she said, looking around with this smirk on her face. "Cute little place you've got here." I tried to be professional. "Thanks, good luck with your new business." "Oh, I don't need luck," she replied. "I've got skill and class. You'll see the difference soon enough." I brushed it off as new business jitters. Competition is normal, right? But things quickly got weird. Karen started offering steep discounts specifically to my regular clients. How did she know who they were? She'd been watching my social media, where many of my regulars would tag the salon in their nail photos. She'd reach out to them directly with special offers just for you. Some clients told me about it, laughing it off. Others quietly disappeared from my appointment book. Business dipped about 15%, which was concerning but not devastating. I focused on quality service and keeping my loyal customers happy. Then came the online reviews. One-star reviews started appearing for my salon from accounts with no profile pictures and generic names. They all made similar claims: unsanitary conditions, rude service, botched nails. I knew they were fake because the details didn't match my salon, mentioning services I didn't even offer or staff members who didn't exist. I reported the reviews but couldn't get them all removed. My rating dropped from 4.8 stars to 3.6 in just 2 weeks. That's when I installed security cameras. Not because I expected what eventually happened, but because I was worried about potential vandalism or someone coming in to cause a scene. One evening, I was working late with my last client of the day, a bride getting her nails done for her wedding. We heard banging on the front door. Standing there was Karen, looking disheveled and angry. I motioned that we were closed, but she kept pounding. "Just ignore her," I told my client. "She owns the other nail salon down the street." "Oh, I've heard about her," my client whispered. "Didn't she try to poach clients from another salon before opening her own place?" That was news to me, but I wasn't surprised. We continued with the bridal nail set while Karen eventually stomped off. The next day, I received a cease and desist letter from her claiming I was deliberately targeting her clientele with predatory pricing and defamatory statements. It was completely backwards. She was doing exactly what she was accusing me of. I took the letter to my cousin, who's a lawyer. He laughed and said it was garbage, clearly something she'd cobbled together from legal templates online. He wrote a response basically telling her to back off and stop harassing me, or we'd pursue legal action. That's when things escalated dramatically. 3 days later, I closed up shop around 8 p.m. At 11:30 p.m., my phone rang with a call from the strip mall security company. The alarm at my salon had gone off and there was smoke. By the time I rushed over, fire trucks were already there, but the damage was extensive. The front of my salon was charred, equipment ruined, and everything reeked of smoke and chemicals. The fire investigator initially thought it might have been an electrical issue or improperly stored chemicals, both common causes of salon fires. But the security footage told a different story. The cameras had captured someone breaking the glass on my front door, throwing something inside, and then quickly leaving. The person was wearing a hoodie, but the build matched Karen. I showed the police footage from earlier incidents when Karen had come to the salon, and they agreed it looked like the same person. They pulled traffic cameras from the area and found her car driving away from the scene minutes after the fire started. When they searched her home and business, they found the same hoodie from the video, reeking of accelerant stuffed in her garage trash can. She had used nail polish remover, acetone, and some other chemicals from her own salon to start the fire. The investigators told me it was actually lucky she wasn't more knowledgeable about arson. She'd used too much accelerant too quickly, causing a flash fire that triggered the alarm system before the whole place could go up. Karen was arrested and charged with arson, destruction of property, and breaking and entering. At her arraignment, she kept saying I had stolen everything from her and that I deserved what happened. The judge ordered her to undergo a psychiatric evaluation. It turned out she had a history of this behavior. At her previous job, she'd been fired for sabotaging another nail tech station. Before that, she'd worked at 3 different salons in 3 years, each ending with similar conflicts. Her new salon had been struggling financially because she'd overextended herself, taking out high-interest loans to create what she thought would be a luxury experience, but charging prices too high for our neighborhood's market. The insurance covered most of the physical damage to my salon, but I was out of work for nearly 2 months during repairs. My clients were amazing. Many offered to pay for home visits or to book appointments when I reopened, regardless of how long the wait would be. During the reconstruction, I actually upgraded some equipment and improved the layout. The new Perfect 10 nails reopened better than before. Many of Karen's former clients started coming to me, as her salon was shut down after her arrest. They told me stories about how she'd badmouth other salons, including mine, to anyone who would listen. Karen eventually pleaded guilty to reduced charges in exchange for a shorter sentence, 2 years in prison plus restitution. Her lawyer tried to argue that she had experienced a mental health crisis and temporary insanity, but the premeditated nature of the crime and her history of similar behavior didn't support that defense. I sometimes think about how differently things could have gone. What if my salon hadn't had cameras? What if the fire had spread to neighboring businesses? What if someone had been inside working late? The whole experience taught me a lot about business, competition, and human nature. Healthy competition can make everyone better, but obsession and jealousy only lead to destruction. I still work 6 days a week at my rebuilt salon, which is now doing better than ever. I've even hired 2 new nail techs to keep up with demand. As for Supreme Nails, the building owner has leased it to a new business, a small bakery. The owner came by with cupcakes on her opening day, and we've already arranged a cross-promotion. Customers who get their nails done at my place get 10% off at the bakery that day and vice versa. That's how local businesses should work together. I don't celebrate Karen's downfall. Her actions were the result of her own insecurities and poor choices. But I do celebrate the community that rallied around me, the clients who stayed loyal, and the fresh start that came from the ashes of my original salon. Sometimes the worst experiences lead to unexpected opportunities, and in my case, a better business and the knowledge that I'm stronger than I ever thought possible. Every time I unlock the doors to my salon in the morning now, I feel an extra sense of gratitude. This place isn't just where I work. It's a testament to perseverance and the power of running a business with integrity. No amount of scheming or sabotage can defeat that in the long run. The next one is a malicious compliance story. About 2 years ago, I had a customer complain that we had raised the price of his phone contract. I work for one of the main UK mobile phone companies here as a customer service rep. I've had my fair share of terrible customers and ridiculous requests. But this was the straw that broke my back. So every year, we have a Pro-C increase in March. It's the rate of inflation as published in November plus 3.9%. This is in all contracts, has been for as long as I've worked there. Every year, we send a letter out in Feb to let people know. And every year, we get calls asking, WTF is this? Most of the time, I deal with these fairly well. I explain they agreed to it in their contract, and occasionally read the exact part of said contract. What makes it more delicious is if they've bought it in store, they have a physical copy. So I ask, do you see where you signed your name in the box that says, I have read and understand the terms and conditions of the contract? Well, just above there, the box above that says, I understand that as of March, the price will increase by the rate of CPI plus 3.9% in advance. And that normally ends those arguments. Well, one day I'd spent all day dealing with these calls, and I get a guy call. Let's call him Kevin. He complains about the price increase, saying how he never agreed to it in his contract. That his contract says it's, let's say, £30, and that's what he agreed to. No more, no less. He would never agree to something where the price was going to change. After S. The normal back and forth of explaining it, how all companies do it, not just us, petrol, food shops, books, everything. But he was having none of it. Around about the time most people accept and give up, he was still going strong, going in loops, repeating the same arguments I've shot down already. At one point, he says he never read it, so it shouldn't apply. I asked him, sir, if you don't read the 30 miles per hour speed limit sign and do 70 miles per hour there, you will still get stopped by the police. Just because you didn't read it doesn't mean it's not correct. Besides, you signed the box saying that you had read it, so I'm afraid you were aware of it. Now, that was perhaps me allowing my emotions to get in the way. But he did not like that at all. He said, if he doesn't get the contract reverted to what he agreed, he would cancel his direct debit and see us in court. Cue malicious compliance. I noticed earlier during the conversation that his contract was actually £60 and that his first 3 months were half price. But the agent who added the discount added an undated 50% discount, instead of the 3 MHP discount that auto removes. Well, given the call was an hour long and I was overdue my break, I finally said, okay, sir, on this occasion, I am willing to waive the price increase for you and revert your plan to its original agreed-upon price. Because I can't stop the increase, I will add a discount of his increase here to the line, and as you've stated, your plan to be put back to what you agreed to. So the 50% discount you have has now been removed, the plan is back to £60. He tries to talk, but don't worry, sir. We won't be making you repay the backdated discount from the last 12 months. That's not how it works here, so I can confirm that your plan will remain at the agreed price of £60. After a stunned in silence, he recovers and asks, what do I mean £60? I explain that he agreed to a contract at £60 per month with 3M half price, but that the wrong 50% discount had in fact been added and had been left on longer than was intended. He told me to leave it alone, not do anything, but it was too late. He had already confirmed he wanted it, and even if he hadn't, we have a system in place to report excessive or incorrect discounts, which I could have been reporting him on. But this was much more enjoyable. In the end, it was escalated to manager, who stuck by my actions to remove the incorrect discount, and in fact removed my discount for the CPI as its policy not to discount these. It went above her to the executive complaints team, who I followed up with, and noticed he was given a letter of deadlock that he could try taking to Ofcom. It felt great. The guy had an incredibly poor attitude, spoke to me like I was his to do with as he wanted, and wanted to spit his day out in a tantrum. I claim the victory in the name of those who work in a role with direct customer interactions when they've treat you like nothing and were truly horrible people. The next one is an entitled people story. This was the incident where I finally let my sister have it like never before. I got a random knock at my door, and it was my sister that I've been NC with for a while now. My parents previously acted like she had no car to come out with, let alone have the guts. Boy, were they wrong. I was shocked to see her, but kept my cool at first. She wanted her mail from us. We had that mail sitting around for months, and eventually it got thrown away. I told my sister I'd go over to our parents' house and look for any she might have. And right as I started walking, she asked if I still have her cat, and if she could have him back. I told her I do have the cat, and I'm not giving him back. That's when she went off on me. I held my arm up and told her I wasn't doing this right now. And as I turned around to look back, I saw that cat freaking running away from her. That cat likes just about everybody, and he was off like a shot because she was there. He did not want to go with her. He knew exactly what kind of place she'd take him to. My sister angrily got back in her car and started saying terrible things about me as I was trying to walk away. That's when I lost it and yelled at her to leave. She acted like she didn't hear me, so I just pointed to the road and she flipped out screaming, "You want me to leave?" I yelled back at her again to get out, and she started driving away while yelling that she's lost everybody here, I'm a bad brother, etc. She gets outside the gate, then stops and starts backing up. So I closed the gate before she could get back in. She starts flipping out again and screaming, "I hope mom was worth it to you." Because she tries to make our mother at fault for everything. Then she said she'd report me for keeping her cat, which I doubt she'd do, because she's a drug addict that doesn't want cops snooping around. I yelled at her that when she really lost me was when she told me our mother was going to die for crossing her, and then I called her out for not buying winter clothes for her kids. She claimed that was after her ex got custody of them. But no, it was before that. Her youngest son came to me in 39 degrees with nothing but a t-shirt and shorts. He didn't even own a coat. I spent $200 on clothes for her kids from the thrift stores. And she still owes me $800 for unpaid power bills and a couple of small loans. She made a really confused face when I yelled that to her because she likely forgot, but quickly went back to yelling. We kept screeching at each other through the gate, and she kept talking about how I chose mom over her. So I brought up her biological father, who wasn't there for basically her entire childhood. My sister spent most of her childhood saying he'd come for her, but he never did. She put the idea of this man on a pedestal for her whole life. But she had to go looking for him when she was in her 30s. He never paid child support, cheated on our mother, became a drug addict, and then went to prison, and then ran off to Arizona after getting out of prison. The guy saw her one last time when my sister was 2 years old, and then nothing for 30 years. She yelled her father is a good guy. I yelled back her father is a piece of crap. Then I called her a narcissist who just blames others, and she needs a villain in her life just to function. And then by some miracle, our parents showed up in their car. Our mother tried to soothe her, and I walked away for a couple minutes. And during that time, the cat I'd saved for my sister appeared and was following me extra closely while meowing. He does not usually do that. He was clearly very stressed. I picked him up and put him in my house. Then I went back to see if our mother had calmed my sister down. But she was still losing her mind and saying crap about me. I ended up yelling at her some more through the gate, and after I walked away a second time, my mother told me my sister called me a ducker right before she drove away. I was furious. But unloading on her like that was so cathartic. She made me miserable for nearly my entire life. I immediately got the cat booked at the vet to be chipped that Monday, and now he's registered in my name, so if my sister steals him back, I can call the police on her, and I won't hesitate to do that. Also, I wish I'd remembered to call her out on how I know she's a cheater. She still thinks I don't know. She had at least 3 affairs, one of which was with one of our biological cousins. She's a really ducked-up person. And she's currently blaming it all on her dead boyfriend that unalived himself by ramming his car into a tree after she broke up with him. The guy cheated on her with another woman in her own bed. That woman apparently somehow passed away too not long later. My sister claimed that guy's cheating was why she didn't want to come home before she was evicted. No, she was out drinking, getting high, and probably sleeping around. She was barely home 2 nights a week, barely fed her kids, and didn't even buy them winter clothes. My parents and I stepped up and took care of them in her stead until their dad took them away at the beginning Christmas break and transferred them to new schools. Then he took my sister back to court to finally finalize their divorce and get primary custody. That's just a few of the reasons why we evicted my sister. She is a terrible person and pretty much a lost cause at this point. Addition, I had this post all written out last week for Monday posting, but then just a few days ago my sister messaged me from a new number out of the blue, and the way she was texting I can only describe as childish and detached. Like someone who was struggling to put together a sentence. She somehow had the idea that our mother now had my phone number. Which is weird. And the way she was texting me also seemed so detached that I didn't recognize her. First, she said she used to be a part of my family, and then she called herself my ex-sister. She's also started calling our mother by name. I did not say anything impolite to her, and was genuinely clueless what she was messaging me about because she was so vague. So I just went next door to my parents and handed off my phone to my mother. My mother did not really say anything rude to my sister over text. She even said she'd never stop loving her, but also noted her disappointment on the way my sister showed up to the hospital to see our mother when she was being treated. My mother went into the hospital for a week not too long ago, and my sister visited her at 1 a.m. and did nothing but talk about herself and how she was a victim when our mother was laying there sick from severe vitamin deficiency, from a multitude of different causes, from medication to a stomach defect. My sister's response to our mother was curt, but I wouldn't say rude. My mother then said that all she wanted my sister to know was that our older stepbrother had another child and didn't mean to upset her. Then my sister said that she's not upset and won't let our mother or her family upset her anymore, even though she was the one causing us all severe stress, as my past posts about her will show. Then my sister responded with unconditional love and called that a joke, then told our mother to eat well and said her grandchildren need her. She spoke as if those kids were not hers anymore. My sister obviously blames us for her losing everything, even though it was all her fault. She acts like we should have had sympathy, but all the years of mistreatment from her added up. And we just couldn't take it anymore. The next one is an entitled people story. Well, that was quite a headline now, wasn't it? Let me tell you the story. This story takes place in Abisko in northern Sweden, where a lot of my other stories have taken place. You can look up the area on the map, but I will give a quick description of the relevant geography. Abisko is in the northern end of a valley that runs north to south. The eastern side of the valley is pretty flat. Along the western side of the valley, there is a river going north-south as well, and it flows inside a fairly dramatic river canyon. It's not a huge canyon, but it does have 5 to 15 m tall sheer cliff walls with the river on the bottom. To the west of the river, you have mountain slopes. The western half of the valley, including the river and the mountain slopes, are inside a national park. So, the story begins proper. This takes place back in 2014. I was going out with a group for some aurora chasing with the snowmobiles. A couple of guests were driving their own machines, while Karen and her friends opted to ride in the sled behind my snowmobile. We drive south from the village and along the edge of the national park. After a while, we stop at a nice open area with a great view of a clear night sky, as well as the mountains surrounding the valley, as well as the large lake to the north. All in all, a great spot for aurora watching and photographing. When we stop, I notice that there is a little bit of aurora starting, so I tell everyone we will stay there for a bit and see what the aurora decides to do. Karen is now poking at her phone and waves me over and tells me we have to go over there while pointing at the mountains on the western side of the valley. This has me a bit confused, and I ask her why, because that's where the aurora is. Now do note that aurora happens about 100 kilometers, 1,538,461 fallow deer hoof prints, or so of the ground. So moving to the other side of the valley won't change any of that. As long as we have a clear sky, the location won't really change the aurora. Of course, I tell Karen this, but she refuses to believe some stupid aurora guide when her phone has told her the secrets of the universe. Now Karen shows me her phone with the map and a dropped pin showing the best area for spotting aurora in the region. The pin has been dropped on the side of the mountain Slatajoka in the middle of one of the most dangerous avalanche slopes in all of Scandinavia. It's an area every local knows to avoid like the plague in winter. That slope even killed several people heli-skiing last winter. And Karen wants us to the snowmobiles there to all get buried under a massive amount of snow coming crashing down the side of the mountain. And to make it even more exciting, there is also the national park, which you are not allowed to drive a snowmobile inside, apart from a couple of official trails. There is, of course, no official trail to where Karen wants to go, and as icing on the cake, we would need to cross the previously mentioned river canyon, you know, the one with sheer cliff walls and a fast-flowing river on the bottom, so I just need to make the snowmobiles fly over that, I guess. Now, most sensible people would probably realize that what they asked for was impossible, but not Karen. Karen expects to be served and not to hear excuses, and she literally tells me to stop making up dumb excuses and do my job and take them to the aurora. At this point, the aurora is starting to get a bit stronger, and I decide it's time to let Karen have a bit of a timeout, so I just tell her the aurora is getting stronger, and I walk away over to some of the other guests to help them set up their camera. For the rest of the tour, she kept occasionally complaining that I was not a proper guide. And I didn't know anything about Aurora, and that I was an incompetent guide who didn't use her amazing app for finding the best spots and so on and so forth. I pretty much just ignored her and focused on the other guests who were having a good time. When we got back, she complained a bit more, and apparently I would be lucky if I didn't get fired when she talked to my boss the next day. I called the owner of the hotel to let him know we were back safe and sound and that we had a Karen. He just laughed and said, "She must be completely stupid." Apparently, she has showed up at the reception the next day to complain and try to get me in trouble. Let's just say the owner was not impressed with Karen's phone app, and he basically told her to go duck off back to her home planet. The hotel did receive a 1-star review on Google claiming we were all rude and incompetent. We all cried a solitary tear afterwards. Anyway, thank you for watching.